Hi, Brad.
Hey, Joe. Or Will, I'm sorry, I was talking to Joe there earlier.
Before we start, I want to thank you for the plates you sent us. We used them for lunch today.
Oh, great. I hope they worked out well for you
They
guys.
worked out very well. We've got guys taking samples home to their wives.
Well, that's good. I'm glad I'm not going to start out in a negative light here with some bad products.
Absolutely not. And we were talking about you earlier this morning in terms of how can we get material down to you to make these things. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm going to turn over the hosting option to you, and you can share your screen. Make host. Yes. The floor is yours.
All right, can you see that?
Are you making all those products?
Yes and no. So right now we're currently just, and I'll get into the products that we're making here in this event.
I'll shut up.
Is it showing full screen or is it showing everything to you there? I'm not really.
It's showing your current slide and your next slide.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to make it just show the one slide. Okay.
There you go. What did you do?
I have no idea.
Well, it worked. It did.
All right, we'll just start from there then. All right, so
click on slideshow at the top. There you go.
Okay.
Click that,
yep.
and then click on the far left from the beginning. Click that. That should do it.
Okay.
Click it.
I am. You doing slideshow? Not sure.
I was doing the same thing when I was trying to get set up for Kyle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can probably, you guys can see most of that screen, right? Of the slide there.
The whole thing. Yep.
Okay. I apologize. Technology
Not a
is
problem.
not always my friend. Well, just first want to say thank you guys for allowing me to come and share a little bit about Genera. My name is Brad Valentine, and I am a feedstock manager. So I spend most of my days dealing with our producers here locally on the farm, in the fields, and trying to get material from the field, from the farm to the facility. So a lot of the information that we're going to go over here is out of my bailiwick, but it's going to be a good overview for me to kind of share what we are and what we do, and we can kind of go through any other questions and stuff that you guys may have once I finish up if we need to. So who is Genera? So Genera kind of spun out of an initiative with the University of Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, and DuPont Damasco back in the cellulosic ethanol facility days here in eastern Tennessee. So at one point they were kind of the go-between between the farmer and the cellulosic ethanol facility plant. Today we have taken over that facility at the merger of Dow and DuPont. They closed down that facility. It sat barren for a little bit. Our management decided, you know, we have the knowledge and the crops here working with the growers, and we need to find a way to fully integrate that. So took off on this new venture that we're on now of making ag fiber from these crops and producing commercial products and getting them to market there. So Kind of a full circle there of where we came from as being the middleman to now being the whole sustainable piece there. So sort of the markets and stuff with our fibers and co-products that come out of our process. Right now you can see the markets that are checked here on the right. We've got binders and agglomerates. A lot of that comes from our co-product stuff. And then our main fiber we're making, can go into talent tissue products. The biggest thing that we produce on site is the disposable food service products. I think plates, bowls, to-go containers. And food packaging is another industry that we're working with there, but you can kind of see a list of all the other products there that we have had some sort of conversations in all of those markets there. And as our company expands and grows, we could use this fiber to produce products for all of those markets as our production capacity expands. So sort of products that we make today, you were asking about this, Will, so here you go. So large majority is unbleached wet lap. It's basically a market pulp that is what we consider an air dry, so it still has some moisture in it. A lot of that product will go to other facilities who will convert that into towel and tissue products, and even some folks may take that and repulp it and create some other products out of it as well. The largest thing, as I mentioned earlier, that we kind of produce on site is the number 2 here, these Thermoform fiber products. Currently, we operate at about 6 tons per day of those. So we have 6 machines basically, and have the ability as we expand to get up to 100 tons per day of those products, and that'll be kind of where we are heading here, basically from now until the next several years as we expand. As a result of our process, we do have a co-product, the lignin there that comes out the back end of it. A lot of that today will go into dust abatement on dirt roads, mine sites, that sort of thing. There's a lot of other markets that we're exploring there, but it's one of those things that you're going to have it no matter what in our process, and the fact that we have a market for it has been great. When we first started, we weren't sure where we were going to go with it, and it's been, most folks have wanted that that specialize in those markets there. So kind of how our process works, we work with our local producers to go out and plant and harvest the grass. And we basically deal with switchgrass here locally. We'll kind of get into in a few slides here all of the crops that we work with, but majority of what we work with locally is switchgrass, and that's kind of piggybacking off of the cellulosic ethanol days. There were a lot of acres of that. There's a lot of knowledge in this area for farmers to grow those crops, and we were able to make use of that in our new facility here. So basically, you bale that up, it comes to the plant, then we start out, we have a de-baling process. It's basically a coarse grinder, sends that into the cook tank. And then from there, it goes through the commercially licensed process that we have. It either goes to the wet lap side of the mill or down to the Thermoform products there that we're making. And then you also have the co-product that we discussed there a minute ago. Going into customer markets, demand for these products is kind of out the roof at the moment, and we're expanding here soon to help meet some more of that demand, but it's a wide open market at the moment. So what crops do we work with? I mentioned switchgrass there. We also work with miscanthus, and a large majority of what we have done has been with miscanthus, as well as the switchgrass. We've done some work with wheat straw and biomass sorghum, as Joe was discussing there earlier. So those are kind of the 4 that we use in our facility here currently. We're doing some initial testing and working through some validation points when it comes to triticale, hemp, and energy cane as well. Somebody in the previous one had asked about hemp. It makes a completely different fiber, and it's something that it would have to be a special purpose that we would need for using that, and as well as the tonnage left over from what's grown a lot in our part of the world, or what was grown a lot several years ago with the CBD. So once they extract the oils and those sort of things from it, it's not a lot of biomass left there, even though it might seem like it was. There just wasn't enough to feed the facility. I mean, our facility at full capacity will consume about 150 bone dry tons of material a day. That's the nameplate. Nameplate is 100 tons out the back end, so it takes us about 150 tons, give or take, to meet that demand there. Kind of moving through there, you guys have probably seen all these crops, but you've got your switchgrass on your left there. You've got some miscanthus on the right. There's some arundo domax there in the center, and then in the back, kind of beside the arundo, is some biomass sorghum. That's an energy garden that we kind of keep up there on the site. Was from the olden days, but it's always neat to show that picture because some folks haven't seen some of these crops that we mention as we kind of work through it. I always like to show that when I'm kind of talking through some of this stuff. So, what might be of interest to you guys, especially as we grow and look to expand in other facilities, is kind of how we work with the growers and how does that all come about. So we do a once a year harvest. Basically, once the crop has gone through its senescence, first couple freeze and thaw cycles, we typically, our guys here are mowing with mower conditioners, hay binds, and then doing a round bell. A net wrap round bell is what we use currently in this facility, just because it works best with the processing equipment that we have. We can't have the net or the twine getting into the process, as it will create specks and flakes in the product. So we do currently here require the net wrap, but that could be something that could be changed or looked at as we probably will look at other alternatives there as we expand their facility coverage. What most of you guys are probably used to, we harvest down here. We try to leave about 6 to 8 inches of the plant standing. Several reasons for that, but obviously protecting that crown and wait until that plant has kind of dried down, eliminates the need for raking. A lot of times down here, we can run the baler right behind the mower. I'm sure it's the same up there in your neck of the woods as well. Just some further photos here. The top photo there is just a self-propelled windrower. Now that's not typical equipment down here in the South. There was a time when a lot of folks were interested in a lot of this stuff, and this was a picture from several years ago when they had several companies out testing out some equipment. The photo in the bottom there on the left is actually a miscanthus harvest with a self-propelled windrower there, and then obviously some windrows of some switchgrass there in the bottom right. So looking here about what makes our products sustainable. All of our products are 100% compostable and biodegradable. You can take that plate that you're eating on or that you had ate on, and in a commercial compost facility, it would biodegrade within, I think it's 90 days is the requirement, and I want to say ours goes a little bit lower than that, a little bit fewer days. Or if some unsavory type decided to throw one of our containers or something out the window, it's going to degrade, within a considerable amount of time, but certainly not as long as it would take polystyrene or something like that to kind of, I don't know if those products would ever degrade, to be honest. There, you can see landfill data where some of that stuff has been in there, and you can see it go for years. So our products are made from tree-free fiber. So obviously what we are using is these, native grasses and some of these other annual crops. So no trees going into our process to produce the products that we make. Less CO2 emissions than wood pulp or bagasse products, and certainly far less water and energy than those. And I've got a slide here in a minute that'll kind of show how we stack up when it comes to those other traditional pulp mill type things. We'll kind of bump into that right here. So if you look at the top, you can kind of compare our greenhouse gas emissions, energy consumption, and water consumption with a wood pulp, a gas pulp, bamboo, or even de-inked recycled fiber. I will be fully honest that this slide gets a little out of my pay grade, that I don't fully understand it, but looking at the numbers there, it makes sense if you look at it from that perspective, and you can certainly tell it's a more sustainable and more efficient process of what we're doing, and less harmful to the overall environment there. So when we think about our fiber, one of the things you think about is how does it perform compared to a wood pulp or some of the other common things there, and we kind of test that on the bullet points. There is your freeness, your tensile strength, your tear, your coarseness, and your bulk. The two things that I hear them discuss a lot is freeness and tensile, and those are two of the things that they focus on heavy, and we certainly meet or exceed a lot of the consumer needs and the market needs there when it comes to the fibers made from our agriculture products. One of the jokes that my boss likes to make when he talks about this, and seeing the spaghetti there made me think of it, is our products, they may not be the most pretty thing that you see out there, but that's not what they're intended to do. They've got to hold your lasagna or your meatloaf long enough to where it won't stain grandma's pants or whatever if it's sitting there on her. So what we look for is the oil and grease resistance, the water holdout, and when it comes to the containers, you've got your compression strength and your deflection testing there. All of our products go through rigorous testing throughout the day in the facility. So the samples are pulled, oil and grease and water temperature regimes are done on a regular basis throughout the day to make sure that everything coming out of our facility is in line with the market performance standards there. The certifications that we hold are listed there. One of the big ones that we're working through now is the Brcgs certification, and that's for the molded fiber. And as we kind of work through that, that'll help us be able to go into more markets and have more recognition there from the standpoint of our facility. So looking at our facility today, right here is a photo of that. You've kind of got everything there. So the horseshoe, if you will, toward the left of that photo was the existing facility minus the white roof at the right end of that horseshoe. So that was the existing cellulosic ethanol facility that we were able to repurpose and convert into our pulping facility today. Where the white roof is at the end of that facility is additional space that we had added to house the current 6 thermoforming machines. And then, I don't know if you can see it, but it says new phase 2 off to the right of that. So that's an additional, I think it's 50 or 60,000 square feet that was already constructed, ready for what we call phase 2, which is where we go from those 6 machines up to 60 or 70 machines. To get our production up to scale there. And you can see the bales. Now, I know you're looking at that going, well, he was talking about round bales earlier. Those are all square bales. As we were kind of working through everything, it was what I could get at the time. And the squares were the easiest thing for me to get for us to kind of do some validation runs and stuff. This was early on in the process of our facility there. So one thing that just happened, 2 or 3 weeks ago was Genera. We were acquired by a company called Era Partners. Through that acquisition, we have been able to maintain our existing management team, and we will be adding additional resources and team members to help us as we grow. As part of that acquisition, they have committed an additional $200 million into our growth capital, and that's where those additional machines will be coming in at there to increase our production facility. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago that was announced, and things are already moving along there to get us going. down that path. So this is kind of the site as a whole there. So, you know, the left-hand side of that facility, or that picture there, shows the facility that I had a closer view on earlier. And then we've got this additional area back here that we will expand on. What we'll probably be doing is adding additional warehouse facilities and things, because when you go from 6 to 70 of those machines, there's a lot more products coming out and need more space to store those for sure. But the graph down here at the bottom, you know, you're looking at phase 1 molded fiber, 6 tons per day. And then when we go to phase 2, you know, we're looking at least 60 tons per day of those molded fiber products, and likely we'll bump that up even further, because the machines that we're looking at now and are procuring are able to do a little higher capacity than what we had thought at the time this slide was made. So kind of to wrap it up, kind of what our project looks like from a capital investment. The phase 1 was a $140 million investment. This phase 2 is 200 million plus as we grow. Also some R&D investments and expansion. So we've created over 82 rural manufacturing jobs, and as our facility grows, we will be having close to 200 on-site full-time facility or full-time employees there. The construction jobs that they've created and the ag supply jobs that we are going to create as we grow will certainly help add to that as well. You know, one of the things that the company is committed to doing is, you know, once we kind of get this facility to where it needs to be as far as production capacity, pretty soon we'll start looking at expanding our footprint, and that'll likely end up being, you know, additional facilities in other parts of the country, closer to some of these areas that have feedstock, such as, you know, where you got a lot of you guys are located at, and other areas where it's more feasible to grow larger acreage to feed facilities such as this. So that's kind of the lowdown of Genera and what I had there. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can, and if not, I'll go ahead and throw up my I went the wrong way there, didn't I? Throw up my contact information, and you guys can feel free to reach out to me at any point in time, and we can talk further if anybody would like.
Can you talk more about the dust abatement and the co-syrup and the de-icing agent?
I don't know how much further I can go about it, just because of my knowledge. I mean, that goes to that is sold to another company, and they handle that. It's basically just road applied. I would imagine that there's some liquid applied to that, or some additional liquid add to help that spread a lot easier. And I don't know if that's answering what the question was there, but that's sort of how they're using it, to my understanding.
Do you have an exclusive contract with the people you're currently selling it to?
I believe so.
Can you tell me what that company is?
I cannot.
Thanks.
Is that because it's proprietary information, or because you don't know?
Most of that is because I don't know. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me there at the email address, and I will get that question asked to the appropriate person and see if I can't find the information. Is somebody in the room looking at procuring that, or just looking for information?
Usually we spread salt brine on the road.
Yes, looking to obtain some.
Sure. Yeah, shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'll certainly get you in touch with the correct person on that.
Bruce Trumbauer, I have a quick question. And you may have said this, but there was so much really good information there. Are you currently getting enough switchgrass product to do everything you want to do?
So at our current production right now, we are. As we continue to add these machines, we will be looking to expand for further material. Yes.
Okay. One of the things that Will and I had talked about and tried to do was figure out how could we most effectively, cost effectively, ship material down there. And we were looking at rail as a possibility. The density of the material is important. because a high volume fluffy material is not going to ship cost effectively. How far reduced, like, can you use material? In other words, we talked about, geez, could this company use a briquetted material out of switchgrass that's highly condensed? Or is that too far broken down for you?
So one of the biggest things that in my understanding, that causes issues for the facility is when it has processed too far or too small. So, you know, we have to be real careful about the way that the material is harvested and processed, because, you know, you get smaller than a 4-inch or so piece of material, then it produces so many fines that basically those just suck up chemical in our cooking process, and we're not able to extract the cellulose and stuff from it.
Understood. Last question. So in Pennsylvania, we're closer to the East Coast and more populated area. Is it beneficial to have a plant in this area if you had a lot of production of switchgrass? Because then you'd be able to distribute with less trucking and stuff like that, because it's so much more populated than in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that is on the table. You know, like I said, that is a decision that I am largely not involved in. Our senior management team is focused on, you know, looking for those future sites and where they're going to be. I do know that we have a lot of interest in that area, and, you know, I think it's just a matter of where they feel is going to work out best, as far as, you know, everything when we get to that point. And I just don't want to speak to it, because I don't know 100% where everything falls, as far as how they weigh all the options out.
Okay.
Brad, point of interest, we have about 8,000 acres of switchgrass growing in Pennsylvania, last time I counted.
It would make my job a lot easier than plop a plant down right up there beside all you got.
So last point that I wanted to make then, Brad, is that I kind of got into this about 15, 16 years ago as a founding member of Northeast Pennsylvania Pheasants Forever. It's a wildlife habitat organization, and I'm not as involved in that right now, but I do speak at their annual meeting, maybe about every other year. And one of the things is they're losing a lot of habitat to corn ground, going back into row crops. And with the current situation and the absolute high cost of fertilizer and fuel, people are jumping back out of corn, and the potential to get a lot more than that 20,000 acres in Pennsylvania is a very viable thing. So maybe that's something we could talk about at some point.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The question I have is, what changes in federal agricultural policy would make your business more viable?
You know, I don't know that I have the knowledge to speak to that, just to be 100% honest with you. I don't play a lot in the political realm to understand, you know, where that would.
Brad,
Could I comment on that?
Sure.
This is Joe. Yeah, I think the one piece of federal policy that would be helpful to all of us who like to grow things would be for the federal government to first assess the CO2 capture capabilities of a variety of crops and trees and come up with a list as to what the top 10 are, number one. And then number two, the federal government is putting substantial funding into carbon capture, but they have a bias, in my mind, for you know, these very expensive pieces of equipment, as opposed to using natural mechanisms to capture CO2, which are much more cost effective. So getting some policy change there that would provide the same kind of incentives or similar incentives to natural capture would make a hell of a lot of sense, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Brad, do you know who your major distributors are of your dinner products?
Oh gosh.
Okay, that's all
Well, I'll
right.
have to get that for you. Like I said, I stay out of that realm most of the time.
Well, I'll tell you why. When I contacted Sam about getting some dishes for our luncheon today, well, I just went online to the store that's there on the website, and the price of the product is very, very reasonable, but the price of shipping was outlandish. And eventually I let Sam know, and he shipped me 125 plates at your expense. And that's why.
Yeah.
But I
So
need
we
to,
are on Amazon as well, Will.
you are,
Yes, yeah.
under what brand name?
I tell you what, when I finish here, I'll send you an email with the link to the Amazon link, and you can send that out if you would like to whoever.
Outstanding, because I'm a Prime member and that'll save me shipping.
Yeah, I believe it works like that.
Okay, good. And I'll spread the word.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it.
Do you have a rail line nearby?
There is, so, you know, we have looked into that in the past. One of the most difficult things is you've got all these external costs as well that go on that. So you've got to put it on a truck and get it to the rail. Then when you get it to the rail, you've got to move it from the truck to the cars. And then you got to go from the cars back to a truck when you get to your facility, and then truck it from the rail yard to the processing facility. I mean, we had done a pretty good study on that, or some of my team had prior to me coming on board. Now that was probably 4 years ago. So it certainly may be something that, especially in today's economy and where we're at with fuel costs and stuff, it may be more of a worthwhile venture at this point. So certainly interested in looking through that and discussing that a little bit more to see if it's not a possibility for us.
Could you bring up slide number 17 again?
Yeah, so there is a I forget what they call it. We don't have a unload facility there right yet, but there is a line that runs right there close to our facility. Yes.
Okay, because when I talked with the rail people up here, they questioned whether or not you were close enough to a rail line down there that it would make worthwhile for us to put our product on a train to ship down to you.
So that, you know, like I was saying, and I should have, I just completely forgot about having that there. But yeah, so what we run into is the closest, you know, yard or facility that we have is still a significant distance away. So that is something that we are looking at, is a facility or building a facility on site there to be able, not only for biomass, but also for our chemicals and our other products that are needed throughout our open process. We're not there yet, but that's certainly something that we have, you know, on the agenda.
We're losing you. Did you make a change?
I don't believe. Can you hear me? Hello?
Volume went way down.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, now it's back. Must have been a glitch. Gremlins. Any other
I
questions?
was just saying that, you know, that's something that we don't have on site today, but it's certainly something that we're looking to add as we, you know, kind of progress and expand as a company here.
All right, if we make any progress, I'll give you a call.
Okay, sure.
Anything else? Brad, thank you very much. We had people going up and taking pictures of your contact information, so you'll
Okay.
probably hear from some of us.
I'd be glad to talk to you guys. I appreciate you having me out here today.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right, have a good one.
You too.